What's up? Did that come on too strong? Sorry, that was a lot. Today we are talking about none other than spoof movies, and the reason that I am talking about the satirical spoof movie, or the parody, if you will, is because my beloved, that 5'6" ball of raw sexual energy, who gives quite literally math teacher that only grades in red pen, Rick Moranis, is returning to film. Yes, I did have a crush on Rick Moranis when I was a kid, but we're not going to talk about that. After his wife died in the 90s, Rick Moranis did not return to movies. He wanted to focus on his family and take care of his kids after losing his wife. He pretty much quit being in movies. This was crazy because he was in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Ghostbusters, Little Shop of Horrors. He was in a ton of stuff, especially stuff from my childhood that I watched. So when he stopped appearing in movies, of course I wasn't probably even born yet, but when I realized he stopped appearing in movies, I was heartbroken. Since Spaceballs 2 just got announced and he confirmed that he's going to be in it, I decided to make a video about how freaking widowy epic this is. I'll see myself out. In 1987, we got Spaceballs. And then in the year 2000, we got Scary Movie, which pretty much launched a whole new genre of parody movies. In 2007, we got Epic Movie, and we got a barrage of all sorts of movies kind of playing off of Scary Movie, like Not Another Teen Movie, etc. And then in 2013, we got The Starving Games, which was a parody of The Hunger Games, and it was basically so unfunny that it gave my unborn children trauma, so I don't even want to go there, but I'm probably gonna have to. What the hell happened to spoof movies? It's like a genre that you don't see anymore. They don't make parodies of Barbie or Oppenheimer or Iron Claw. And there was a time where they absolutely would have. So today we're cracking open the graves of parody movies. We're digging up the bones and
giving them a little kiss.
And wondering, was this actually good? Or did we just have unlimited power? Was this always stupid? The first ever proven spoof movie was in 1905, according to my research. There was apparently a very old silent film called The Great Train Robbery, and someone decided that, hey, you know what's better than a train robbery? Train robbery with child labor. The Little Train Robbery was a real movie parodying The Great Train Robbery, only the train was super tiny and the entire cast was made up of toddlers and children. So congratulations to little shit number 3 who played baby Jesse James. You paved the way for this. So let's kick it into gear to when parody movies really got started, which was the 1980s. Up until then, we did have some satirical comedy groups that focused on things that did happen in movies, but they weren't necessarily parodies themselves, to my knowledge. We had things like Monty Python and Airplane that poked fun at tropes, but the first true parody movie that I can think of that really launched the genre into whatever it was Spaceballs in 1987. And they put Rick Moranis in a helmet so big you could have parked a Honda Civic in there. This movie was directed by Mel Brooks, so it was obviously a pretty big hit. It parodied movies like Star Wars, Star Trek, Planet of the Apes, Alien, etc. Now, Mel Brooks invented the genre I'd like to call boner with a purpose. When he did parody movies or spoof movies, it always had a bigger meaning behind it. Spaceballs was kind of a joke on corporate greed when it came to Hollywood and the sensationalization of the sci-fi genre, and despite it being hilarious, it had an overall story of good versus evil. It had a full, coherent plot, which is something that the parody movie kind of lost later on. It wasn't just parody, it was prophecy. And after Spaceballs, there were several movies that touched on things that happened in other movies in skit formation that would parody major moments in motion picture cinema. Which brings us to the year 2000 to 2006, aka the peak of genius stupidity, Scary Movie. Released in 2000, Scary Movie was directed by the Wayans brothers, and it was basically every joke you were too scared to say in church camp based on the movies your parents did not want you to see. It parodied Scream, The Exorcist, I Know What You Did Last Summer. And teenagers and young adults love these movies, but you know who really loved these movies even more? were kids, which was bad. I mean, I don't guess it was bad, but I grew up in a good evangelical household, so any kind of movie like that was the kind of thing where if you left the DVD in too long, your TV might get pregnant. Like, that's how bad they were. And people love these movies because they were controversial. Yes, they were funny, and now that the internet exists, these jokes aren't as dirty, I guess you'd say. Like, people don't freak out as much about stuff like that. But for the time, that was relatively unheard of. Many people consider the first Scary Movies, Scary Movies 1 and Scary Movies 2, as the pinnacle of parody. They were dirty, they were controversial, they were funny, they were relevant. But then the Zucker brothers took control of the second two films and pretty much decided, what if we made these PG-13 and not funny? They were still funny. People watched them because of the iconicness of Scary Movie being Scary Movie. The madness was softened a lot, and I think people got disappointed in the fact that it went from being something that was taboo and controversial to something that was literally PG-13. Then, after Scary Movie, we had to keep riding that train, and we got Not Another Teen Movie, which was basically an amalgamation of every single teen movie that ever existed. Let's get a slow clap for Chris Evans covered in whipped cream and shame. And a lot of people liked Not Another Teen Movie, but me personally, it just fell short for me. And maybe that's because I wasn't a huge fan of teen coming-of-age romance rom-com movies like that. That wasn't my thing. Not Another Teen Movie was a film that asked, what if we took every single movie where the nerdy girl took off her glasses and let her hair down and became instantly hot, but also removed about 40% of her personality and frontal lobe, and we combined all of those movies into one mega amalgamation plot. Okay, I'm being harsh. This movie was actually pretty funny. There's a lot of iconic moments from it that people still talk about, at least on Facebook Reels. This spoofed movies like Varsity Blues, American Pie, She's All That, 10 Things I Hate About You, etc. Okay, that genre. And then again, it was Chris Evans with whipped cream on his titties. Man, you can't beat that. This one worked because it actually understood the genre. Teen movies are something that have always been corny, chuggy, mocked, whatever you want to say. It's the perfect example to make a parody movie. Then, in 2007, there was Epic Movie. And you know that these parody movies are getting bad because the Scary Movie franchise only lasted from 2000 to 2006. So 2007 was just like crawling along for notoriety, begging, pleading. This movie was like if somebody watched every single cutaway scene from Family Guy and thought, yeah, we'll make that a live action film. It spoofed the epic and fantastical films like Narnia, Harry Potter, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and then Nacho Libre for some reason? Snakes on a Plane? I don't know, I get it, I understand, but I think we're kind of losing this like fantastical kind of format. This movie wasn't just a spoof, it was a crime against comedy. This one got pretty bad ratings, and it's not hard to see why. Characters basically walk on screen, announce what movie they're from, and then make an inappropriate joke. And it's like a slap to the face. The worst part was how successful it was. It actually made money in the box office, which there's no excuse for that, considering it was basically like if SNL got lobotomized by a shake weight. The last true spoof movie to ever exist was The Starving Games, and it was a parody of the Hunger Games. At the time, as a huge Hunger Games fan in the 2010s, I thought this shit was hilarious in 2013. I was dying. ROTFL. LMFAO. But I tried to watch it back recently. The jokes aged like old mayonnaise that has been left out at a picnic table for way too long. There are references to things that aren't funny anymore, like Angry Birds. That's not even relevant, so the joke doesn't really land. The glory of original parody movies like Spaceballs is that they focused on jokes that were always going to be relevant because they were active problems in the Hollywood film industry. When you take a movie that's not going to be relevant for more than like 20 years and you parody it with jokes of things that are only going to be relevant for 5 to 10 years, it just doesn't hold up. And when I saw this movie, yeah, I thought it was funny, but I was also a kid and I laughed at Shrek 4D and ate glue. Every joke is like, hey, remember this? It's the same joke, but now it's the meme top text bottom text format and we're yelling. Basically, the Starving Games only was, I guess, successful and well-known at the time because the fandom culture surrounding things like Tumblr was so popular with teenagers that fans of the Hunger Games would absorb any type of Hunger Games media whatsoever. So, watching how the spoof movie became, I don't know, the first one was still kind of weird. Watching how the spoof movie generally went from being like amazing to terrible. Why is it completely extinct to this day? We don't see the parody genre in the 2020s. We just don't. Like every good thing that must come to an end, there's only one thing to blame for the end of the parody movie: the internet. We live in a world where comedy is so in high demand. My little phone can give me any kind of parody I want at the touch of a button. I can watch a Barbenheimer spoof made with puppets in some guy's kitchen on TikTok Live. In a world where comedy groups like College Humor, Key and Peele, SNL digital skits exist, why would I pay to watch a movie repeat the jokes I've already saw 6 months ago? Basically, meme culture ruined the parody movie. It's shorter, it's punchier, it's funnier, it's a quick dopamine release, and it's not two guys spending an hour writing skits like, what if Iron Man was kind of gay? And this was the 2000s, before being gay was cool. Can the spoof movie return? Yes, only if we find ourselves and return to form. And with Spaceballs 2 coming out soon, being confirmed for release, I believe that we can do it. And if Rick Moranis comes back to cinema, I don't believe that anything is impossible. We're going to have to base the parody movie on jokes that are not going to be irrelevant in 5 years. We're gonna have to not do cheap cut skits. It's gonna have to be a fully conceived plot, okay? Because the skit comedy can be found on your iPhone. The skit comedy can be found on the SNL Facebook page. We're not going for that anymore. I feel like it had its time, but then after the increase of social media, it's just not sustainable. Do I believe that the new Spaceballs movie is going to be the peak of comedy? No. But I do believe that this is going to maybe spark up some more parody movies because it's bringing heart back to parody movies. Instead of just being a cash grab, this is a passion project. And that's apparent because Rick Moranis was supposedly never going to return to the acting world, and here he is. Mel Brooks wouldn't take on this project without the original cast, and that's how I know that this is going to be a passion project. If we can bring passion back to the parody movie, maybe the parody movie will come back from extinction. This has been the history of the parody movie. My name is Melody. I hope you enjoyed this video. This channel is called Melody Ever After. If you've made it until this long, do you need a doctor? Like, what's wrong with you? But if you have made it here this long, maybe check out the rest of my videos. I'd really appreciate it, or leave a comment if you enjoyed. Until next time.